Hi, everybody. This is Pastor Jesse Holt with tonight's Connect Point for you. Just have a quick announcement. I just want everyone to remember that this coming Sunday, April 26th, will be our very first live stream service. So you'll want to pick us up this Sunday live. Just go right to our website. You'll be able to then just scroll down right to watch sermons, click on the live sermon, and there we'll be. We'll be ready for you. You'll be able to see us at 10 o'clock. We'll be recording that service also, and following the service, we'll be able to put it online so that you'll be able to come back and see it whenever you need to or want to or watch it again or whatever it might be. So this Sunday, April 26th, is our first live stream service. We've been looking at the book of Judges this week. We started with Othniel. We did Ehud. Yesterday, I did Deborah. And then I did something that I love when a good plan comes together, right? I made a mistake. I did something that I think actually is a good lesson point. It's a good lesson for me to remember. I actually skipped a judge. I mentioned him quickly, actually, but then I went right on to Deborah. I mentioned him, and then I went right into the heavy hitter, Deborah. And his name is actually Shamgar, and he's found in Judges chapter 3, verse 31. And the reason I jumped him is because he's just basically a minor judge. That's how I kind of saw it. He actually only gets one verse in all of Scripture. So I figured, what can we possibly look at in his life and really dig into? And then today, I said to myself, I underrated him. I underestimated him, which I think is a lesson in and of itself. Let's go ahead and look at it. Judges chapter 3, verse 31. Listen to this. After him, so this is talking about Ehud, who's a major guy, and then Deborah, who is another major heavy hitter in Judges coming up. But after Ehud was Shamgar, the son of Anath, who killed 600 men of the Philistines with an axe goad, and he also delivered Israel. One verse, and it was very obvious that when I saw this verse that I could easily just skip over him and get on to Deborah. But because I underestimated him, I thought it was a good life lesson, because how many times in our lives, how many times in your life has someone underestimated what you could do? I think it's easy to skip over different parts of our lives because we're underestimated. And I did that here with Shamgar, but I think Shamgar is important because he's someone that I think inspired Theodore Roosevelt to say this: do what you can with what you have where you are. Do what you can with what you have where you are. Now, we've probably heard this quotation before. Teddy Roosevelt's very famous, one of our major presidents. But he's saying to us in this quotation, he's talking to the underestimated person, not just the bigwigs, not just the majors, but the minors. People like you and me. Do what you can with what you have where you are. And here is Shamgar. Shamgar, he did this. He did what he could. He did what he could. God gifted him in a certain way to be a leader. We don't know how long they had peace after that, but we do know in the book of Judges, because it's cyclical, that Israel has once again fallen, and it seems that they have fallen to the Philistines. And so God sends Shamgar to go in, and he defeats 600 soldiers, Philistine soldiers, all by himself. Now that is a pretty powerful thing. But for us, I'm not someone that can defeat 600 people, but I believe that God has gifted me to do exactly what I am supposed to be doing. I think the same is for you. He has gifted you in that same way to do exactly what it is that you are supposed to be doing with those giftings. It doesn't matter to me if you think it's a minor thing, if it's something that doesn't seem to really make that large of an impact. The Lord can use that to make a big impact in somebody else's life. Do what you can. Do what you can. Secondly, use what you have. Use what you have. Use what's in your hand at the moment. The gift that God has given you, that you can have that in the moment. What is in your hand right now that you can be using? What is in your hand right now that you need to be using? Here is Shamgar. He picks up an axe goad. Now, an ox goad, excuse me. He picks up an ox goad. Now, this ox goad, it's obvious that what he does with that is it's more or less a cattle prod. It's a way that you can prod the cattle going. So we can look a little bit at his life now. It seems as though he is a farmer. A simple farmer that God has called to do a great thing. So he didn't have a sword. He didn't have weaponry. It seems as though he didn't have those things. So he picked up what he had. He took in his hand what he had, and he used this farm implement to destroy the kingdom, to destroy the enemy that had God's people in captivity. He did what he could. He used what he had. And finally, we need to be people like Roosevelt said, start where you are. Where are you right now in this moment? That is where God has you. This is what God has you to do. Start right now where you are. Don't look back and say, I wish I had this education. I wish I had done this. I wish I had done this differently. That doesn't matter anymore. It's in the past. You need to start right now. Bloom where you're planted is the phrase that we hear. Right now, where you are is where you need to start. You need to start where you are, using what is in your hand. Use what you have to do what you can. Because I believe that you were called for such a time as this, just like Esther, that you were to be here right now doing exactly what your gifts and your talents are for the Lord. You need to look and say, well, some people may have underestimated me, but they can't underestimate the God that is within me, the power that is within me. This is what I think is the message from Shamgar, is that you need to do what you can, use what you have, and start right where you are today.